Hey NFL fans, before we dive into today's hottest stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. From NFL News Now, the Dallas Cowboys are once again at the center of league-wide conversation, and this time the spotlight is firmly fixed on the defensive side of the ball. Where mounting frustration, internal disappointment, and unmet expectations have created the perfect storm for a major coaching shakeup. Over the past few weeks, league insiders have begun to whisper more loudly about the future of the Cowboys' defensive coordinator position, and the name generating the most intrigue is Brian Flores, according to growing chatter around the league. Dallas is expected to be very aggressive in exploring Flores as a potential solution, especially as the season winds down and the organization prepares to evaluate what went wrong in yet another campaign that failed to deliver a playoff appearance. This is not just idle speculation or a casual interest. The buzz suggests the Cowboys could be positioning themselves to make a serious push, driven by a sense that their defense has actively held back an otherwise explosive offense that was more than capable of carrying this team into January football. At the heart of this situation is the increasingly fragile status of current defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus, whose tenure in Dallas appears to be nearing its end. From the outside, it looks like a partnership that never quite found its rhythm. The Cowboys' defense consistently failed to complement the offense, often surrendering crucial drives, allowing too many points, and collapsing at moments when stops were desperately needed. While there were flashes of competence, the overall body of work painted a picture of a unit that lacked identity, cohesion, and adaptability. The late summer trade that sent all-pro edge rusher Micah Parsons elsewhere undeniably weakened the foundation of the defense, stripping Eberflus of his most dynamic chess piece. Still, even accounting for that massive loss, the expectation inside the Cowboys building was that adjustments would follow, and that the scheme would evolve. That evolution never truly happened, and patience within the organization wore thin as the weeks passed. The frustration reached a boiling point when Dallas attempted to patch its defensive holes through mid-season acquisitions, bringing in established names like Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson in hopes of stabilizing the unit. On paper, these moves suggested a front office willing to spend and adapt, but on the field, the results were underwhelming. Perhaps nothing symbolized the dysfunction more clearly than the puzzling lack of usage for Logan Wilson late in the season, particularly in Week 17, a decision that reportedly did not sit well with owner Jerry Jones. When a high-profile addition barely sees the field during critical moments, it sends a message that something deeper is broken. For an owner as hands-on and emotionally invested as Jones, those moments matter, and they often accelerate major organizational decisions. This is where Brian Flores enters the conversation, and why his profile stands in such stark contrast to what Dallas currently has. In Minnesota, Flores has built a defense that ranks among the league's elite, sitting comfortably within the top tier in both yards allowed and points surrendered. The Vikings, ironically, present something of a mirror image to the Cowboys. While Dallas boasts a powerful offense that often carried the team, Minnesota's struggles have largely been driven by inconsistent and underperforming offensive play. Flores' defensive unit has done its job, often keeping games within reach and giving the Vikings a fighting chance, only to be let down on the other side of the ball. That dynamic has not gone unnoticed around the league, and it has reinforced Flores' reputation as one of the most respected defensive minds in football. The question, however, is not whether Flores is qualified, but whether the move would make sense for him personally. Flores is currently operating on an expiring contract in Minnesota, and while the Vikings are publicly interested in bringing him back, there is an undercurrent of uncertainty surrounding that situation. Flores is widely expected to draw interest for head coaching vacancies, and from a career perspective, leaving a successful defensive project to take another coordinator role elsewhere carries risk. Defensive coordinators with head coaching aspirations typically prefer continuity and sustained success, both of which Flores currently enjoys in Minnesota. Walking away from that environment to oversee a defensive rebuild in Dallas could potentially damage his stock if results do not come quickly. Yet the situation is not entirely straightforward. There have been subtle suggestions that Flores' intense, no-nonsense interpersonal style, shaped by his formative years under Bill Belichick in New England, may not be universally embraced within the Vikings organization. While some players and coaches thrive under that demanding approach, others can find it abrasive over time. Reports have hinted that Minnesota's interest in re-signing Flores might not be as unanimous behind closed doors as public statements suggest. If that is indeed the case, Flores could be more open to considering another defensive coordinator role, particularly with a high-profile franchise like the Cowboys, where resources, visibility, and ambition are never lacking. From Dallas' perspective, the appeal is obvious. Jerry Jones has never been shy about opening his checkbook for coaches he believes can change the trajectory of the franchise. If Jones becomes convinced that Flores is the missing piece, it is easy to imagine an offer that would test Flores' resolve and challenge his long-term strategy. The Cowboys are desperate for a defensive identity, and Flores represents instant credibility. His ability to craft disciplined, aggressive, and situationally sound defenses stands in stark contrast to the inconsistencies Dallas has endured. However, the challenge would be immense, as the Cowboys' defense appears to need a far more comprehensive overhaul than what Flores inherited in Minnesota. There is also the human element to consider. Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell is known for his calm, player-friendly demeanor, a style that on the surface seems to contrast sharply with Flores' intensity. Surprisingly, that contrast may actually work in Flores' favor, according to league observers. The two personalities complement each other well, creating a balance that has benefited Minnesota's coaching staff and locker room. O'Connell's opinion on Flores' future should carry significant weight, and if he strongly advocates for Flores to return, it would signal genuine organizational alignment rather than mere lip service. In that scenario, and assuming Flores does not land a head coaching job, the most logical outcome would be his return to Minnesota for the following season. Still, the Cowboys linger as a fascinating wild card in this story. Dallas represents both opportunity and risk, a chance to lead a storied franchise back to defensive relevance, but also the possibility of becoming the next scapegoat in an organization where expectations are sky high and patience is limited as the offseason approaches. The league will be watching closely to see whether the Cowboys truly make a move, whether Jerry Jones decides to flex his financial muscle, and whether Brian Flores views Dallas as a step forward, a lateral move, or a dangerous detour on his path back to a head coaching role, one way or another. This situation encapsulates the constant tension between ambition, fit, and timing that defines life in the National Football League, and the outcome could reshape the futures of both franchises in ways that resonate well beyond a single season. Keep watching as we analyze more details about some rumors. The sports world woke up buzzing with a kind of nervous electricity after what many insiders are already calling one of the most shocking moments in recent football memory. Because during a packed press conference filled with cameras, whispers, and stunned expressions, Dak Prescott appeared to strongly signal that his long chapter with the Dallas Cowboys was coming to an end. And even though no official paperwork was shown and no final destination was confirmed, the tone, the pauses, and the carefully chosen words felt like a goodbye wrapped in professionalism, leaving fans, analysts, and rival franchises scrambling to interpret every breath, every glance, and every half sentence as if they were clues in a massive puzzle that suddenly landed on everyone's lap. Those who watched the scene closely noticed that this was not the usual routine appearance filled with cliches and safe answers, because Prescott spoke with a reflective calm that only comes when a decision has already been made internally, even if it has not yet been stamped by contracts or league announcements. And when he mentioned legacy, growth, and the importance of challenging oneself beyond comfort zones, it sounded far less like a quarterback talking about an upcoming season and far more like a leader preparing people for separation, especially when he paused to praise the organization, the locker room, and the city in a way that felt deeply personal and unmistakably final. Behind the scenes, the rumor mill immediately went into overdrive, with speculation suggesting that months of quiet tension, complex negotiations, and philosophical differences about the future direction of the team may have slowly pushed both sides toward this crossroads. And while the Cowboys publicly maintained an image of stability and mutual respect, sources close to the situation whisper that Prescott has been wrestling with the idea of redefining his career path, possibly seeking an environment where his voice carries even more weight and where the competitive window aligns more closely with his own personal timeline and ambitions. What makes this situation feel even more explosive is the emotional bond Prescott has built with the franchise and its fan base. Because his journey has been marked by resilience, leadership through adversity, and a steady presence during turbulent moments, which is why the idea of him wearing a different uniform feels almost surreal to many supporters. Yet that same emotional history may be part of the reason this potential departure feels inevitable, as sometimes the deepest relationships reach a point where both sides need space to evolve, even if that realization comes with a heavy heart. During the press conference, Prescott avoided direct statements about leaving, but his language was loaded with implication, as he repeatedly emphasized gratitude rather than future plans, reflection rather than anticipation, and lessons learned rather than goals ahead. And for seasoned observers of player transitions, this pattern is familiar, almost like a silent code that signals the closing of a chapter without lighting the fuse of controversy, allowing respect to remain intact while the message still lands with undeniable force. Speculation has also intensified around the Cowboys' internal strategy, because if Prescott truly is preparing to move on, it suggests that the organization may already be positioning itself for a significant shift at the most important position in the sport. And that kind of transition does not happen overnight or by accident, leading many to believe that contingency plans have been quietly explored, scouting evaluations accelerated, and long-term visions recalibrated, all while keeping the public narrative calm and controlled, until the moment could no longer be contained. From Prescott's perspective, the timing of this apparent announcement feels deliberate, as if he wanted to address the situation before rumors spiraled completely out of control, choosing transparency through tone rather than headlines, and by doing so, he maintained ownership of his story, signaling maturity and confidence rather than frustration, which only strengthens the belief that whatever comes next is something he feels prepared for, both professionally and personally. Around the league, executives and coaches are undoubtedly paying close attention, because a quarterback of Prescott's profile does not simply become available without causing seismic ripples, and even the suggestion of his departure is enough to reshape expectations, alter off-season priorities, and ignite quiet conversations in offices far away from Dallas, where decision-makers imagine how his leadership style, experience, and presence could transform their own locker rooms and fan bases. At the same time, fans are left caught between disbelief and cautious acceptance, flooding social spaces with clips from the press conference, slowing down footage, dissecting facial expressions, and replaying quotes as if the truth might reveal itself through repetition. And this collective analysis has only reinforced the sense that something monumental is unfolding, because rarely does a franchise cornerstone speak with such emotional clarity. Unless the future has already shifted beneath his feet, there is also a strong undercurrent of respect running through this entire narrative, because despite the shock and sadness surrounding a potential exit, Prescott made it clear that his relationship with the Cowboys is not defined by bitterness or resentment, but rather by appreciation and mutual acknowledgement of what was built together. And that tone has gone a long way in softening the blow, even as it confirms the seriousness of the moment. As the hours pass and the echoes of that press conference continue to reverberate, the story has taken on a life of its own, evolving from a simple media appearance into a full-blown saga about loyalty, ambition, and the natural cycles of professional sports, where even the most stable partnerships must eventually confront change, and in this case, that change feels both shocking and strangely logical at the same time. No matter how this rumor ultimately resolves, whether Prescott officially departs or finds a dramatic way to remain, the significance of this moment cannot be overstated, because it represents a rare intersection of transparency and uncertainty, where a player's words carry as much weight as any official announcement, and where the absence of a clear statement only amplifies the meaning behind every carefully chosen phrase. For now, all that remains is anticipation, fueled by speculation, and guided by the unmistakable sense that the Dallas Cowboys are standing on the edge of a new era, one that may begin without the quarterback who has defined so much of their recent identity. And as fans and analysts alike hold their breath, one thing is clear: the reverberations from DAK Prescott's press conference are far from over, and the story is only just beginning to unfold in ways that could reshape the league's landscape for a long time to come. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and share it with your fellow NFL fans. Stay tuned for more updates, only here on NFL News Now.